Okay, let's start with Launchpad McQuack.
That's not the actual title of this.
We are Sex Bomb! 1, 2, 3, 4! Hey!
Anime of the year. Yeah, I said it. And meant it. Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is one of the coolest projects I've seen in such a long time. Every frame is just dripping with style. I mean, you can feel the creativity radiating from it. It tells an alternate version of the Scott Pilgrim movie with quite a few twists, and even after rewatching the movie, I'm still loving how they told the story in the anime. I could ramble for hours about all the little details, but for the sake of putting out a video while the topic is still fresh, I want to focus on one main aspect, and then at the end I'll go over my thoughts on the anime as a whole. To start off, let's go over everyone's favorite manic pixie dream girl, Ramona Flowers. A manic pixie dream girl is a character archetype that you can loosely define as a quirky, not like other girls girl that exists solely to teach the main male character a lesson. If you go on Google and search for manic pixie dream girl, the first result you'll find is likely to be Scott Pilgrim's own Ramona Flowers. If you've seen the movie before, you already have a good idea why this is the case. The Ramona Flowers from the movie exists purely as that archetype. I'm hesitant to call her one-dimensional, but even if she isn't, she's pretty damn close. She's quite literally the girl of Scott's dreams, more of an idea than a real person. She's the prize Scott wins for beating all the bad guys, and her role in the story was to teach Scott to have some self-respect. That's all well and good. I mean, we did see some solid growth from Scott, but Ramona herself seemed to be lacking as a character. This is where we get into the anime. The first episode is close to a one-for-one retelling of the beginning of the movie. The story only splits off after the first battle with the 7 evil exes. The anime version sees Scott losing to Matthew Patel, leading to the rest of the cast holding a funeral, Ramona developing some guilt from his death, and then seeing said funeral crashed by international rock star Envy Adams. But when Ramona hears Scott's voice in a dream later that night, she realizes that Scott is actually alive and that she owes it to herself to find him. Thus begins a journey with Ramona Flowers as our main character, as she reconciles with all of her exes and confronts both hers and Scott's past. In the anime, Ramona transcends the manic pixie dream girl archetype and flowers into something much more. Throughout the course of the anime, Ramona transitions from being the object of desire to a character that does the desiring. She decides pretty early on that she wants to find Scott. She wants to move on from her past. She wants to make her own decisions in her life. The movie version of Ramona, the embodiment of the manic pixie dream girl, was an object that you could fight over and win. The anime destroys this idea in the second episode, when, after his victory, Matthew is ecstatic that he gets to be with Ramona again, just to have his dreams ended when she leaves him. The exes were under the assumption that whoever defeated Ramona's newest boyfriend would get to claim her as a prize. Ramona's action of leaving Matthew signifies that, for the first time, Ramona Flowers is no longer the archetype we've seen before. Instead, a living, breathing character with the agency to make her own choices. Ramona's fight with the bi-furious Roxy was the first moment that we saw Ramona actually do some healing and reconciling with a character. She had to confront the fact that she ran away from her relationship, and it had a serious impact in how she handled the rest of her exes. Watching her team up with Lucas Lee to fight the paparazzi ninjas was badass, and her willingness to help him out showed a kindness we never got to see in the movie. She even tried to help Todd get over his extremely gay love affair with Wallace. When I was watching the anime, it felt like every past relationship still had a piece of Ramona with them, and it wasn't until Ramona had reconciled with each of her exes that all of the pieces of her became whole again. It's almost like the sort of one-dimensional, archetypal version of Ramona from the movie was an empty vessel for Scott to fill with his fantasies. But by the end of the anime, Ramona was a fully fleshed out character, leaving no room for anything other than her authentic self. I could easily do a full video essay on Ramona's character and the differences between the movie and anime version, but that'll have to be a topic for another day. As for the anime as a whole, just to give you some insight on my first reactions to it, I actually took some notes while I was watching. The very first thing I wrote, holy shit, this is really fucking good. If you've seen the anime, you'll for sure understand why I reacted like that. Pretty much every category I check when critiquing an anime scored a resounding 10 out of 10 for me. The animation was amazing. Science Saru managed to capture the original comics art style while keeping everything visually fluid and appealing. The actual plot of the story, again, is excellent, and in many ways, it far surpasses the plot of the original movie with how it reworks some of its more dated elements. The English voice cast, which, by the way, if you're not aware for some reason, you need to be watching this in English, needs no introduction. The fact that they got the original movie cast to voice this series is an insane feat, given just how popular most of the actors have become. For example, one of the best scenes in the entire show is goddamn Captain America doing kickflips to some punk singer saying, over and over again. My only musical complaint is that we only got to hear a short soundbite of Black Sheep. I mean, it's such an iconic song from the movie, so getting teased like we did hurt me just a little. The characters were also done really well. I'd say it's mainly because we got to spend so much more time with them compared to their movie counterparts. A great example of this is when Knives and Kim start jamming out and we get to see like the sparks flying, which showcases their love for music instead of a love for Scott. Knives as a whole got a total character upgrade in the anime, and it's not just her. The majority of the cast saw major improvements. The fight scenes were so creatively animated, and they perfectly encapsulated the essence of an old arcade fighting game. From the Mortal Kombat theme playing to old Scott dressing like Ryu from Street Fighter, the influence can't be missed. The various romances were also done well. I'm certainly a sucker for cute relationships, and this show was full of them. I haven't mentioned the comedy yet, but there was so many good bits throughout the anime that I've already forgotten the few jokes that felt a bit cringy. I also wanted to point out that there was a reference to the anime Beck in the opening, and I'm sure there are tons of other references to films, games, and anime that I've yet to discover. This entire project feels like a love letter to these forms of media, and I am so happy with how it turned out. My long list of praises could go on and on, but I think you're starting to get the point now. If you've ever read the Scott Pilgrim comic or watched the movie, the anime is a must watch. And if you've never read the comic or watched the movie, go ahead and do so, then watch the anime. I promise it'll be worth your time. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've been your host Taylor, and I'll see you on the next episode of Jump Report.